This is a Fox News alert. New threats against the U.S. consulate in Istanbul. These new threats forcing the U.S. State Department to cancel consular services, which include the issuance of visas. Now, the State Department is saying it has information about a possible security threat and are encouraging Americans in Turkey to remain vigilant. And back here at home, President Obama's plan to take out ISIS under intense criticism. Critics say the obvious. ISIS is growing and growing, so the president's plan can't possibly be working. Member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, New Hampshire Senator Kelly Ayotte is on the record. She's right here. Senator, that was my thought. If they're growing and growing, whatever we're doing isn't working.
Well, I would agree, Greta. And, you know, I think what we heard on Sunday night was we certainly heard a lecture, but we didn't hear changes on what's going to make the difference to defeat ISIS in terms of the current strategy. Nothing new, stay the course. And so I think we need to be much stronger if we want to make sure that we reduce their safe haven in Iraq and Syria. And frankly, we've had some stepping up of the air campaign, but it needs to be much stronger. We've got a situation where, frankly, I've been surprised that the president actually hasn't even called together NATO to say, okay, post-Paris attacks, and obviously,
well, I don't know why France didn't invoke Article 5,
right.
And I don't know why Turkey didn't invoke Article 5 as well. I mean, I don't know why anybody has, or why we haven't.
And we have an ability, even short of invoking Article 5, to actually, under Article 4, call a NATO meeting of how we're going to work together to defeat ISIS and bring this coalition.
I'd step it up to 5, but that's just me. All right,
yeah.
What are the generals saying, and what is the military saying?
Well, I think the military, we're going to hear tomorrow from Secretary Carter on this issue, but what I think is that we need to obviously have rules of engagement, especially on the air campaign. That's starting to change, that really make sure that we're focusing on the right targets. We saw that when they took out the 116 oil trucks, but obviously that was way too late. We need to do more of that. We also need, I believe, Greta, a lot of these sorties are coming back where they don't drop the bombs. And the way you avoid that is more forward air controllers, JTACs actually embedded with the Kurds, embedded with Iraqi forces so that we can call in accurate airstrikes to go after the best targets. And then more support for the Kurds, more bringing together our allies to really take ISIS out.
Well, the Pentagon, one of the others, of course, I'm sure you know, is all the talk today about Donald Trump, and even the Pentagon had something to say to him about national security. Let's listen.
We have troops serving that follow the Muslim faith. And again, without wading into politics, anything that tries to bolster, if you will, the ISIL narrative that the United States is somehow at war with Islam is contrary to our values and contrary to our national security.
Islam, are we at war with Islam, radical Islam, or nobody?
Well, let me just say, Greta, I firmly believe to the statement that was just made, I respect all of our service members, regardless of what their religion is. We shouldn't have a religious-based test on either immigration or service. But this administration...
We also have a constitutional amendment.
Exactly. It's called the First Amendment to the Constitution, and it needs to be respected. But that said, we are, if you look, radical Islamist terrorists, and the president has not been willing to say that. And we have to be clear that this is the enemy, and we need to make sure that we do everything we can to defeat ISIS and obviously other terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda that still remain a threat to us. And to me, the president has not been clear, and certainly that wasn't clear on Sunday night either.
I think his failure to say radical Islam, and I'm going to make a comment at the end of the show about it, I think is actually very destructive to trying to beat ISIS, and I'll explain at the end of the show. So you have to stay tuned.
I'll stay tuned, Greta. Appreciate it.
Anyway, Senator, nice to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.